going on, people? Welcome to the Freedmen's Collective for Tuesday, April 12th. We got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about Zaddy. We're going to be talking a little bit about that white Zaddy that a lot of women are thinking about. That great white, that escape hatch, that way to get off to a better land without taking a brother man with you. I'm going to be your little host, Darvell. We're going to drop this right in the clubhouse, but we got to make sure y'all know what the disclaimer is, right? The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the respective hosts and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Freedmen's Collective channel. So make sure you understand before we get into this heavy discussion. We appreciate you. So sit back and relax. It's me, Darvell, and we're going to do this. So if you got any questions, you can join the clubhouse, which you're going to see here shortly. Leave your comments in the box on Facebook or YouTube Live. I can see them. And so will the rest of the team. So let's go ahead. Let's go on over to Clubhouse. See what folks is talking about right now. Sounds like a good plan to me. They talking about over here.
Again, also Tossin points out the black women with college degrees are more likely to marry than white female high school dropouts. Rich black men marry out. So this goes to the author, citing the statistic that black men marry out twice at the rate of black women. And even if you look at that rate, almost like it's like very small. Like let's say so 8% of black males marry out, and I think only 4% of black women marry out. So you're talking about, yes, it's double because the percentage is 4 of black women that marry out, but it's still only 8.
So are you saying that they're marrying out for finances? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. That has been alleged, and so that's been alleged, right? That is the case. That's what this article is stating. But I'm going back to what the original article that we covered, right, was stating that black men marry out twice at the rates of black women that marry out of race, right? But if you look at that statistic, that's why he didn't cite the number. He never cited that. Well, what is the actual percentage of those who are, black people who are married, right, that marry each other versus that don't marry each other, right? If you look at that, it's quite small. And this article actually talks to this. It says, so it goes to say, rich black men marry out, right? Black. So that's a myth. A myth, right?
You was in the Matrix, Nor, so we couldn't even hear you.
Hey, Ernest.
Yeah.
So hold on, let's reset for a second because we brought some people on live. What piece are we talking about today? Which one is it? Because I thought we had a second article up earlier.
Oh yeah. So just for a recap for everybody coming in, the Great White Note. Is it White Zaddy or Reparations? It's just another conversation from the brothers out here in Michigan. I know Gerard, Steadman, Darvell, they wanted to definitely cover this topic as it relates, this whole like conversation of divestment, this whole idea that the media is trying to paint that equality is just when we go marry some white person. And even like, a lot of our more successful black people, they kind of follow that trope. So we started off talking about the New York Times Post, or actually the New York Post that, mentioned why more black women should marry. Let's see, what did it say? It said why black women should consider marrying white men. And then now, through that conversation, we kind of navigated to talking about some of the myths that are constantly brought up about black marriage. And I know Gerard was going ahead and going in on that. We got Nor, we got Chris on the stage as well. So, whenever you guys want to chime in, feel free to do so.
So going back, so to talk about, okay, you know, let me get to the part of the article. The second article that we're covering that is, you know, again, debunking some of these myths. So here, one of the myths: rich black men marry out. Black men drop black women as soon as they reach a certain level of success, don't they? While plenty of rap stars, athletes, and musicians may choose to date or marry interracially when they achieve fame, the same is not true for the bulk of successful black men. By analyzing census data, Towson and Marks found that 83% of married black men who earn at least $100,000 annually got hitched to black women. Right? The same is the case for educated black men of all incomes. 85% of black male college graduates marry black women. Generally, 88% of married black men, no matter their income or educational background, have black wives of those who do get married. So the percentage that marry out, right, is like, you know, from what I've seen anywhere between, you know, 15 to 8 to 15%, and normally it is double that amount for of black women, and it's like maybe 7%, anywhere between 4 to 7%, depending on the source that you're looking at. But even so, I mean, you're talking about a small percentage compared to the overall whole, right? But what is perpetrated and propagated is that, you know, all black men are just leaving, you know, they always are dating out, they're leaving black women, so on and so forth, this and this and that. When the real stats, when you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, the empirical evidence and data, it just doesn't play to that. But again, we're constantly getting barraged with, you know, these examples of, you know, athletes and entertainers or what have you, and that somehow seems to be our baseline. We use that as the baseline or our litmus test to what is actually happening in the community itself. I yield.
Well, my question is this: what do you think is the reason for the divesting?
I mean, that's
like in general, or specifically with black women wanting to divest from black men.
Either or.
Well, I think in general, there's a lot of stereotypes and a lot of propaganda being pushed that you can find peace and happiness somewhere else necessarily. And then I think a lot of what you find is, specifically for black women, I think this is a propaganda game that tries to divert the energy and attention away from who's responsible for the degradation of the black community overall. And so if you can place the blame at the feet of black men, that somehow we are incapable of being responsible, even those of us who, you know, that the bulk of black men are irresponsible, are uneducated, are not hardworking, do not have ambition or drive or determination, or are criminal or prone to criminality or violence. What you do is you remove the blame from the institutions that are responsible, the government namely, for placing us in this position. And so that's basically how I understand it. And also you destabilize the black community as a whole, because when you look at historically, when countries or tribes or societies, when they captured or conquered a tribe, what they would do, you can, if you read the Bible, you can see this. I'm sure you can read it in other religious texts too, if you know, but they specifically, God would tell, for example, King David, go out and kill all the men and save only the marriageable young women. Or, you know, in different scriptures, he said, don't save nothing, kill everything, burn it down. And so what you see now is, for 400 years, we haven't tried to get rid of black men because they needed us for work and for this and for that. But now that those systems are not in place in that same way, we've kind of outlived our usefulness. W.B. Du Bois talks about it in The Souls of Black Folk. When he mentions that, you know, every day that black people exist, I'm paraphrasing, is a reminder to white people of the atrocities that they've committed. And the funky academic Arnie Osei Frimpong talks about, you know, they only got really a use for about 500,000 Negroes in America, and we got about, you know, 40 million too many. And so they're trying to find ways to weed us out. So if you can get the black woman, not even to date white men, but just to determine that she don't want to be with black men, what you do is you destabilize our community in a new way, because you've been trying for not the full 400, but let's say 150 years to destabilize us out of existence. So now you teach our women or you teach our community to turn against itself, and that takes out the work on the part of the system of white supremacy at large.
I think the women still got.
Okay.
I was going to say I think women still got a good argument that they numbers less than ours, but I would say that when we looking at these positions of power, the fact that if it's a black man or a black woman, the fact that they married to a white person means that the way that they see race is completely different from somebody that's married to, a full-blooded black person, or somebody, who doesn't have that unique intersection, that the person that they're committed to life with is, of a different race and has that historical connection to the reverse side of slavery. You know what I'm saying? And they have to leverage that existence. And so, it's always unique hearing them talk about the other side. Like, I want to play that clip from Ketanji, but I'm trying to find if Kamala has a clip to see how she talks about her husband, because, and then I'll try to find a black man that talks about like their white wife, but, just having an understanding of how they view them. And then they also recognize like, these are white people. Yes, I ultimately see him as a white man when I first look at him. So it's not like they're not seeing race when, this choice is being made. So I'll stop with that and try to find these clips.
Well, let me just comment on
what that says to me when I look at those, anybody successful, like with the vice president and with her, what it says to me is that you have to, in order to get to this level of success, then you have to have a white partner. Even with that old coon that's already in the Supreme Court, that his wife taking him through the ringer and back with all the stuff that she did. I just think I think that's the message that they're trying to send. In order to be successful, in order to be on this level, you have to, white has to be there.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but it's even more so for black women, right? I mean, because if we look at the Senate confirmations with Ketanji and versus Clarence Thomas, if any of us old enough to remember, Clarence Thomas was way worse.
Yes, was
was way worse. And then also you notice
that's what I was talking about when I say disgusting. That's what I was talking about.
Right, Roger. And it seems too, even for whatever, I mean, again, there's always double double standards, right? And as a male, hey, you just have to live within it. But when we look at, we all know that Obama would have never been able to reach the height of success or get the buy-in from the black community if he was married to a white person. Married to a white wife or what have you. And he even acknowledged that he had to, get a black wife or a black partner in his political career. He knew that was going to be pivotal in doing so. And whereas on the opposite end, Kamala, Ketanji, either it's applauded when black women get with white men. I mean, I remember when Meghan Markle, when she married, Prince Harry, like that was like that. Some certain people in our community was taking that like as it was a victory lap. As well as Serena. I mean, we can go on and on and on of all of the black women, famous black women that have married, famous white men, and is either is not talked about in the same light, or again, it's applauded in this herald. Whereas, if you guys can remember when Michael B. Jordan, he was had just a non-black girlfriend. And at one point in time, people were actually were protesting to take down Black Panther because Michael B. Jordan's girlfriend was not a black woman. We have plenty of on the opposite end is complete. It's for the black male that dates out or gets with the white person, it's a completely double standard or what have you. And to me, it's just more evidence of our people buying into this gender hatred towards each other, which doesn't uplifts us and doesn't get us to the real political and the real gain of social and community uplift is all individual at this point.
And I think when you look at even when you were saying like men still date out more than black women, black men still date out more than black women. I haven't really researched this fully, but Dr. T. Hassan Johnson talks about how black women are the only group who don't date out more than their males do. When you look at Hispanic women, Asian women, the women always date out more, usually in every society with the dominant society. So the out-group female usually dates more of the in-group male. But what you find in America, and we're unique in this, I think within the world and sports and entertainment has allowed some of this dynamic to change around the world. But what you'll find in this country is because black males play sports or entertain or can take up jobs or careers that are highly lucrative and successful, financially successful, it allows them to enter an upper echelon of society. And so you attract a different caliber of person. For black women, they don't have anything that will be similar. Even if you look at black entertainers, female entertainers, 9 times out of 10, the type of men that they would attract are not going to be the type of men of the quote unquote caliber and quality of whatever Brown's husband name is, Ketanji Brown husband, or Kamala Harris, I'm confusing them, husband, right? You look at your rappers or your singers or your actors and actresses, you'll find that some of them still from Eve, Tyra Banks, right? Serena Williams, but those are only a few of the total. I don't know, what percentage that is, but I'm sure that number kind of trends with whatever the full amount of black people marrying out. Because I think one of the statistics shows that as black men go up in earnings or whatever, they still marry black women at about the same rate, or maybe even more. I forget which one it was. And so that's what you find for black women. They don't have the opportunity to make that kind of financial. So it puts them in a different position, which I think ultimately is the issue with this kind of information overall. But I'll pause.
So I'll read that again for those who may have heard it in the response to this. It says the same is the case for educated black men of all incomes. 85% of black male college graduates marry black women. Generally, 88% of married black men, no matter their income or educational background, have black wives. This means that interracial marriage should not alone be held responsible for the singleness of black women. So, but that's usually as that usually is offered as a reason why, right? And in that article previously that we covered, written by the law professor, was stating that, black women should not have any loyalty to black men because, black men date out as twice the number rate that black women do. Well, if we're going off of that number that I just read, 88% of black men that do get married marry black women. So that means 88. So that's freaking 12%. You know what I'm saying? That actually marry out. And if it's twice, that means 6% of black women marry out. You're talking about not even 15%, not even 20%. That's nowhere near a majority. But again, what is lauded as what we think we see, again, because of what's being pushed in the media, we think that, all successful black men. And the reality is that most entertainers, right, and so on and so forth, like that's not all of our successful people, right, and those who have money, and the reality is that we to tie this back into reparations, right, is it white Zaddy or reparations? In essence, the most of our wealth position is tied up in the top was it decile of, if we broke up our wealth condition in tens, right? So that's what I'm saying. You break it up in 10. The top 10% of all the wealth that blacks do have, which is somewhere between 2 to 3 trillion total, is in the top 10%, of us. We're a wealthless class. And so ultimately we're wealthless people as a whole. And truthfully, what's been what's been proctored as the way to get out, all these escape hatches, doesn't really get to the heart and the crux of the racial wealth gap, which is reparations. Reparations is the prime way we see all these symptoms, right? But we're not dealing with the root cause, right? And that's been our generational, being generationally tied out of being able to get wealth, and the only way to close that gap now is through substantive government policy, i.e., a reparations program.
And I'd like to just, even on that point you hit. So what we find too is like, there's a guy, he does a show called Champagne Sharks. His name is Trevor. He's Haitian. And he did a Twitter thread about this. He's married to a South Asian woman, so he was just giving us perspective about this doctor. He's a law professor from Stanford or whatever, and how he's kind of, been the person who's been on the news for this stuff the most. His Twitter thread kind of broke down his appearances in the way that he presents this information the same way that I kind of broke it down. But what you also have to consider too is, just because a woman says she wants to date a person, or just because a woman says she wants to marry a person, don't mean it's gonna happen. So you could tell black women, oh, open up your options and chase after white men, but that don't mean white men gonna marry you just because you chasing after them. And that's the fundamental dynamic that's being missed too. You can want to marry whoever you want to marry. I could want to marry, back in the day, Rihanna, but that don't mean that was my choices and options. You know what I'm saying? You could do whatever you want to do mentally. You could say, this is what I'm going to do. But that's as impractical as every kid wanting to be a basketball player or a football player. It's not enough spots. And it's a two-way street. And so what this doctor's doing, just to kind of reiterate, is he's trying to play on sympathy. And I don't know if it's been said, I'm sure it has. But he got a black wife. Is he going to divorce his wife so she can live her potential? Is he going to leave his wife or let her go, let her free? Because his wife ain't no vice president or no Supreme Court justice. Is he holding her back? Is all she could hope to be is the wife of a Stanford professor? Why don't you let her go so she could be the next president? Why don't you let her go so she could be the next attorney general?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You want to play this game to try to sell books and get white people to pat you on the head because you sowing this discord. But let's talk about this in reality. Why is your wife black and why ain't you let her go yet?
Now, and even to that point, Stan, like, even having a black wife, despite the divorce rates being what it is, and despite the fact that black men marry out, your reality is that you represent the majority that do marry black. You get what I'm saying? So making those points is just, nonsense at that point.
And if anything, instead of trying to trash black men, right, as a reason for this, why wasn't he appealing to white men to date black women? That's who we should be appealing to, is the white. Why are there more white men wanting to date black women or marry black women? He didn't have to punch down on us. You know what I mean? I guess we'll punch at the same level because he's a black man, right? Again, it's what I always say, man. It's I realize it's kind of like maybe I was maybe 20 or so. It's always money. Is always money in degrading a black male, dude. No matter who it is, where it comes from. I mean, Color Purple was my source of it. You know what I mean? It's always money and profit in degrading a black male at any given time. So it doesn't surprise me that these type of articles and hit pieces get published, man. We've been talking a lot, Jeff, Nikki. Chris, you guys got anything new, or you got anything else? We want to make sure we're having a good discourse with our people who come up.
I have a lot, but I'm finishing up work, so give me a few minutes.
Okay, no problem. Jeff, if you talk to Jeff, you're on mute. Any of our go? There you go, Jeff.
Right now, I can't talk.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Hold on.
You guys, Ernest, my stance on the whole thing. I'm just trying to. I really would love to know if I could ask any question, it would be the purpose of the purpose of it. Like you said, he hadn't divested. He has a black wife. And when I first read the article, I saw it on Facebook, and people were talking about it, and I read it, and I'm saying to myself, did he get paid to write this? I'm just really trying to understand it.
Well, he has a book that he put out, about 10 years ago, is Marriage Only for White People, I believe, something to that extent. And it's pretty much, kind of, again, talking about the same type of thing. So this guy's been in the space for a while. The fact that it was released in the New York Post on April Fool's Day, who knows, who knows? I think all of it, again, if you ask me, I think the purpose of it is to cause dissension, to get off the true battle for social and political upliftment. Because we've seen like our people ever since the 80s, right? Ever since the 80s, we've kind of the Decadent Veil, the Cosbys, this idea that it's our fault, that our people are in the social condition that we're in, not the actual societies. If we either did respect, we go this particular route, college, this and so on and so forth, that somehow magically is going to fix everyone's problems. Or B, the other option, the do for selfer option, if we just stop spending our money on Jordans and things of this nature and frivolous things, and just invest in our own community, then that's going to be the solution as well. When the fact is, a matter of the fact is that neither one is solely by itself is going to be it. It's going to be it because we don't own anything. We don't have enough money to actually get into the ownership and the production and higher up the supply chain to make these type of moves, because one, we were prevented from having that type of wealth that you need to be able to get into capitalism and a mature economy that we're in today. And then two, even if you do go the college route, and mind you, I'm college educated, I work at a predominantly white institution, but we are dependent on white society at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I doubt it very seriously. I can go to probably any black company and probably get the type of salary that I get, and there's a reason for that, and it's not because we're just all lazy. It's not because we're spending our money frivolously. It's due to systematic things that started with slavery and continued on through Jim Crow, redlining, so on and so forth. The only way to truthfully turn some of these social ills that our people are being plagued with is economics. We got to freaking get a policy bill. We have to get government policy, social uplift, transitive uplift, and that's through a federal reparations program.
So
and I think a lot of people like to hear that talk.
Let me see here. So you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, yep.
So here, I did want to say something to what Gerard was saying. That was really interesting. So I recently took a tour of a plantation here in Nashville, Belle Meade Plantation. It was really interesting because it cost us about $33. Me and my friend, both two black men, cost us about $33 each to get a tour of this plantation. We walked around, we seen the mansion, and then after it was over, there were the slave cabins in the back of the grounds that we could go and see. But that wasn't included in the tour, not the primary tour anyway. They didn't care about showing, slave cabins, but they had a lot of history in the cabins. And it occurred to me after I left those cabins, after I watched how these black women who also kind of joined into the move, they joined into the organization that owns the white controlled organization that owns the plantation. They joined that, and they're trying to get the names and the family lineages of the slaves that were working at this plantation understood. They're trying to get documentation on them. and trying to figure out who's, party to these people. And I'm like, wait a minute. The plantations that enslaved and started this whole situation in the United States that brought all these riches and world fame to this country, they're still standing today. White people still own them, and we're paying them to come and see these places. We can't even go and see where they enslaved our ancestors, and they're still making money off of it well after supposedly slavery has been shuttered. And then it just reminds me to what Gerard was saying, like this system goes all the way back to 1619, and it's just in its third or fourth incarnation in terms of what they manipulated it into to make it seem like there's nothing going on anymore. No, I just paid $33 to see ancestors whose names they attempted to wipe off the record books. And it's disgusting, and that's why we're here today talking about Black women being told to leave Black men, or even the idea that Black men can't find Black women, or any way you chop it up. When there's a division going on within the Black community, you can allocate at minimum 66% of the reason that division is occurring to everything I've seen at that plantation. And we should own those plantations at this point in time. I mean, what's the point? Like, if you really think about that, like, why would these same people, even if they're organizations, even if they're nonprofits right now, if they're white controlled nonprofits and they're employing a majority of white employees, why is this the case with something that supposedly was such an atrocity in the United States' eyes? Well, that's because they're really still running the same game.
And I just want to kind of reiterate what you said, and to answer that question. I mean, you see, my name is Conspiracy Brother, so I believe a lot of things that we see on the surface are just under the surface. The under the surface is really what's going on. You see, like a superficial, base level representation of things. And so in this case, I think it's very possible that he is being paid to I mean, at the very least, to make these kind of statements for the reason that I said. When you look at the reparations conversation and the debates for reparations at the U.S. Capitol, I mean, you had guys there who were saying, "No, we don't need reparations," and I'm not talking about the people in Congress, but I'm talking about like some of the people coming up talking about it, who for a fact wouldn't be entitled to reparations anyway under the framework that we argue for. When you look at some of the other organizations, Narcan and Cobra, some of the pathways that they have tried to use to that they want us to believe would make reparations a reality, they're also, not, they don't appear to be in good faith. And so if you can find ways to justify we went over on the show about how, the U.S. government has put drugs in our communities, systematically destroyed our communities, bombed us. Even, you're looking at, I used to live in Atlanta. I'm from Michigan, but I used to live in Atlanta. And so there's a lake about 2 hours, I think it's 2 hours north. I never went, called Lake Lanier. Not just in the last 2 years. And I've been back in Michigan since 2016. In the last 2 years, I just found out that Lake Lanier used to be a Black community, and they flooded it. And they did that all over the country. And I wanted to do a show about it, but they literally just flooded this Black town, and now it's a lake. And all these people in Georgia, Black people, that's where Usher's stepson got killed, or not killed, but brain damage. Lake Lanier. There's still houses and stuff at the bottom of the lake because that was a Black community. Fulton County is shaped like it's shaped because there was a white county in the south and a white county in the north, and they needed to connect. So that's why it looks weird. It looks almost like a barbell. So when we look at how the country is set up, and when we talk about reparations, we always get stuck up on financials. But what needs to be done, reparations is just repair. It's a repair process. So it's going to take more than money. It's going to take a lot. It's going to, you need to have an apology because that establishes that a harm was done. But you need to have psychological help, medical help. You see what I'm saying? Because these all have contributed to our situation. Financials are a large component. But what has happened to us over all these years is not just financial. It's mental.
Right.
It's spiritual. And so you've destroyed it. So now you get this black man here at Stanford, and he's not a Cornell West, right? So he's not that's actively pushing against the power structure. He's somebody who's perfectly fine sucking white dick himself. And so for all I know, there's people online who like to see their wife have sex with people. For all we know, this might be his fetish. His wife might be getting piped down by some white kid on campus, and he just like to watch. And so this is a man who they let parade out and tell, oh yeah, all black women should be with white men. I mean, I don't get how that make you. You don't hear anybody else. You don't hear any white people saying that. Any that are taken seriously. You will see a lot of crazy shit online, but you don't hear any white people saying that in mainstream circles. You don't hear any Asian men or any Hispanic men in mainstream circles giving their community away. Especially those who are supposedly married to the women of their race. And, we could get into how race is all a construct, whatever. But we live in the reality of the situation that we in right now.
That's right.
So it's just likely that this man is doing this because he's being paid. Same with the black BLM situation. They talked all that shit and did all this stuff, and they just as bad as anybody else. They're just trying to make a buck off our struggle, off our death. And when we have black women who feed into this feminism bullshit where, oh, men are oppressive and black men are the patriarchy. What patriarchy I got? What control do I have over any of these systems of power, of finance, of anything? Nothing. But if you can make it seem like we're as equally invested in this patriarchy as the white man, then you completely distract and obfuscate from the issue. That's why they say, oh, white women, because it's white women. White women need to be making $1 an hour at parity. They need to be paid the same as men. And here's how I always break this down. So black men don't even make $1, right? And if you factor in prison labor, black women make more than they men, which is the only community that outpaces they men on average with income. But then if the white man make $1 and the white woman make $1, they family making $2. When you put in the black family's money, if you don't factor in the prison labor offsetting the actual working numbers, black people still only make something like $1.50. And so what do you have? You have a more just structure for white people. You have a more just structure for Asian people. You have a more just structure for Hispanics. And then black people are still on the bottom. And that's, you're going to have black women making $1, further moving themselves out of, they call it, what do they call it? Hypergamy, further moving away from black men because you feel like you can't relate to what we're dealing with. We did an article a while back talking about where they broke down how men in general are no longer the majority in schools, and the 60-40 males to females, and the number of men in schools is declining. So then what happens?
I want to say something. Probably like I didn't mean to cut you off, but like 2001, it might have been 2002. Morris Brown College did a similar study, and it was very similar. It was like a cohort study on their campus and surrounding campuses that Black American women to Black American men on a college campus. So it's like, you usually might meet a sufficient mate or whatever sufficient to you is what I'm saying. But somebody that you can meet at school, y'all pretty much, will probably be able to generate and create wealth together. It was astounding because at that time, even back then, it was like, man, like 8 to 1, 8 sisters to 1 male on the campus. So that's crazy.
Right. And then, I went to Morehouse. And so you see down there where Morehouse is an all male campus, but then you have such a high population of homosexuals on campus that throws the balance off still. You see what I'm saying? You still don't have, it ain't 30, it ain't, Morehouse only got like 3,000 students. It ain't 3,000 straight males who want a wife. You know what I mean? It might not be 50-50, but it's probably at least 20-80 or 70-30 at that time. And I was there in 09, 09, 010, 09, 10, whatever, 08, 09, 10. And so it's the same thing you're saying. When you look at Kevin Samuels, you don't have to agree with everything he says, but what he does is important because what he shows is the reality of the dating market, and he's telling it to women. And what you see is the ridiculous standards that women have when they're trying to get a partner. They fundamentally don't understand what men are looking for in a partner. And they fundamentally don't understand what value they bring to a relationship. Not every single one, but a lot of them don't understand what's, and you don't have to agree with what he says because he's not 100%. Nobody's 100%. You're going to watch our show or listen to us. We're not 100% going to be on everything you like.
I like some of his talking points. Not all of them, but I do agree with some of his talking points.
And that's the thing, the things that you can agree with, then it's up to us to try to figure out how we can try to help the community to implement those things that make sense. But that's all he's really trying to do at the end of the day is bring a sense of reality to the Black dating market. Because he brings numbers, he brings statistics. And that's the same thing here. You got a situation now where women only want men who bring more to the table than they bring. And women, by and large, are achieving at a rate that outpaces they men. You say back in 02, 2 to 8.
Just about,
yeah.
That's a failure box.
I'm not a Kevin Samuels fan, just for the simple fact that he makes it seem as if women are not making more money than Black men in this country. So he kind of flips it. So until Kevin Samuels start talking about how Black women are more educated, higher degree, and are making more money than Black men in this country, what you're saying is one-sided. And you cannot give a theology on dating one-sided.
Well, I think that's just what he said, right? He just explained that Black men aren't even present to get the money or the education.
Yeah,
it's the same side of this. It's the other side of the impression of the same coin.
Yeah, Kevin.
It's not a denial.
Let me bring some stats. Can I bring some stats for a second?
I was saying Kevin Samuels does not address systematic oppression. You cannot talk about dating
let's
society without talking about systematic oppression.
Oppression of Black folks, right?
Yes, yeah. She's saying it's skewed more. You know what I mean? Because Black women have more money, they're more educated. That's going to have a factor in the dating profile, right? So let's bring some stats to that. Let's bring some stats. They're the most. They go to school the most. But let's actually bring, and then that's women all together, right? That they're not the only ones. White women also get more degrees than white men, but they don't have this problem. So let's go to this. Okay, Black men don't earn as much as Black women. Okay, so we're referencing the article that's pinned to the top 4 myths about Black marriage. Okay, just because Black women are more likely to graduate from college than their male counterparts doesn't mean that they out earn Black men. Actually, Black men are more likely than Black women to bring home at least $75,000 annually. Also, double the number of Black men than women make at least $250,000 annually, right? So because of the pervasive gender gaps in income, Black men remain the breadwinners in the Black community. These numbers indicate that there are plenty of financially secure Black men for Black women. Of course, not every Black woman is looking for a breadwinner. Not every Black woman is seeking marriage. Some Black women are happily single, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that if we look at these, so again, the conventional wisdom, the conventional sense is that Black women make more than Black men because Black women are more educated by default. They're not, and Black men are not graduating. That automatically denotes that that if you don't have a college degree, then therefore you're not at the same level as someone that does have a college degree. And here's the thing: only 16% of Black people as a whole have college degrees. so out of the
what year is that? I didn't actually read it. What, that got to be pretty recent, right?
This article has a lot of skewed information. I would love to know where he gets these numbers from. Yeah.
Because I was going to say that may be true in regards to what you're saying, in regards to where Black men have started, making more than certain sisters, depending on, that depends on what degree you got when you finish school. But that's because a lot of black men have went back into skills and trades and stuff like that. So a
They were always
a
there.
construction worker or somebody that's an electrician probably very well make more money than somebody that got a degree in psychology.
Yes, and that's
If
the
they don't
point.
That's
have, if
true.
they don't have, if
That
they're
didn't
not a
just start
licensed
happening.
doctor in psychology,
Right. So
right?
that's the point. That's the point of it. I don't think it's. Oh man. Okay, I
No,
got somebody at my door.
I'm agreeing with the article in that sense because yeah, over the last few years we have seen a lot more black men that have went back into the trading field. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think one of the things that's always forgotten about when we look at wealth and income stuff too is the role that debt plays. And so even let's say you got a black man who does go to college, you go to a little D2 college or D3 college. And I say that specifically because I'm going to bring sports into this. You can get a black man who goes to a Tiffin or a Grand Valley State, and he'll go, and even if he doesn't graduate, he's got a scholarship. Black women aren't going to school and getting scholarships. And so you still have my wife have like 6 figures of debt for school. And she's not unique in that. And so what you find is like black women are going to college, they're getting jobs, and no job is really pay no money, but they're getting these jobs. And then when you factor in the amount of student loans they have to pay back, that's what's knocking them down. A lot of men aren't going to college. So even if they're only making $50,000 a year, without that excess student loan debt, what you have tangible liquid cash or net worth exponentially higher. And that's one of those things, even on a small level. My little sister, she went to beauty school.
That's why
and she has debt from beauty school. Her husband didn't go to any kind of school.
Together, because a lot of times that's true too. A lot of brothers' credit be better than the sisters. It do.
Yeah, I guess. Go ahead, Nikki. I'll let you jump in.
No, go ahead, Ernest. I'm not gonna touch that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to stay clear. You know, what's the dude name? What's his name, y'all? Menno Smith.
Oh, you talking about Kevin Samuels?
Yeah, I'm staying clear of him. I'm staying clear of all of that. But I was gonna say, as far as like our topic, right? Like the Great White Note. You know, I think he ties in, but I think as far as our topic, like Great White Note, is it White Daddy? Damn, I fucked up the title like that. It White Zaddy. Is it White Zaddy or Reparations? You know, I wanted to say that one of the problems that we have when we're looking at our history and like interracial dating is we know the racial fault line exists. And so like if we're looking at it from, I'll say like if we're looking at it from a historical angle, what we're seeing today with like Ketanji and even some of these black men that's in power, like Clarence, that's married to white people. I think this is something that's been existing since the foundation of this country, especially with like free coloreds. And when we look at this racial history where black people were trying to marry into whiteness or at least marry a white person to escape the illusion of blackness. Now, these people that like marry white people, they still 100% black, but like their kids, they start marrying, like, they start having this mixed identity. And in some cases, like white passing people, we talked about this on the show, right? Like white passing people, they able to escape in this racial like society, and so to this myth of like black women escaping, in some instances it's true. And even for like black men, they try to marry into this whiteness in the sense that whenever they marry the opposite race, like white people especially, it's not like they're embracing them into this black culture that we have that's tied to slavery. Instead, it's the opposite effect where the black person ends up feeling like more Americanized or more Europeanized because of the connections that they've forged through, their love connection or whatnot. And so, I just been playing some of these clips with like Ketanji, with like Barack, and even with Kamala. And the one thing that I'm noticing is that, the way they see whiteness is like this. I guess the spouse that they got, it's like they got a ton of respect for him. And whenever they ask, like, so how are you guys together or whatnot? And they're like, well, he's commendable, he's respectable, he's, a solid guy, he's always supporting me, all of these things. And then when they ask that white person, like, what do you see in this person? They say like some of the same things. And I feel like when we looking at some of these answers they give, and they not necessarily including the racial factor at all. And that has to be factored in just because of the existence that we have in here in America. You know what I'm saying? And so, I feel like in some instances, people that interracially date, they have this mindset that they're going to escape the racial realities. I said that this has existed historically because when we look at like societies like the brown paper bag, the brown paper bag test and some of these boule societies that existed, that was like people who was intentionally marrying white people to escape blackness. They didn't care about what family members they got that's black or whatnot. It was just about themselves and escaping. And, fast forward to today, 2022, we seeing this same exact thing on repeat, but I guess it now gets more highlighted because we're in a digital age. And so they could put the spotlight on it and you can say, damn, is Barack Obama speaking for these niggas in the hood? Or does Ketanji Brown or Kamala Harris, would they ever even challenge their white partners on like some of the racial experiences that are had in America, on a common basis and, try to advocate for change given the power that they have? Or is it more so, they don't see race like this idea that, just like white people, they've escaped race. And so they don't have to deal with it because of the class and the people they're around. But with that, I'll land.
I think largely when you look at these, they see race, but I think they understand it's taboo enough that you can't get out here and say, I like my wife because she's dark skinned or she's black and that's kind of attractive to me. I like, like you hear people say that. Even a lady, what's her name? Crystal and Carrison with that swirling book. Like that's the whole idea of swirl, like black and white. That's not talking about your character. That's not talking about anything to do with what's inside of a person. That's purely because you black and he white. And I mean, like when you look at like for example, the movie or the book 12 Years a Slave, Alfre Woodard's character is based off a woman in the book, and she was a black head of a household with a white husband in slavery, Louisiana. Right? That's not uncommon. There was a Brazilian woman, I forget her name, but she was married to a white man who owned slaves, and then he died, and she was like one of the wealthiest people in wherever she was in Brazil. Owned slaves because she inherited all his slaves and property. I think she ended up letting them go. I'm not sure. It was a while since I looked her up. And then even when you look at they do the Loving Day. What was Loving Day? Loving Day wasn't a black man with a white woman. Loving Day was a white woman, a white man with a black woman. And so historically, what you see, like I talked about earlier, when you look at a society, outgroup women tend to date outgroup males. And so if anybody can find me in the slavery in the South, Southern America, where there was a black man who owned slaves and had a white wife, this will kind of put this whole theory to bed. I mean, I don't think you're going to find one. I won't say you can't because, anything is, I guess, possible. But that just shows you what we're talking about. Black women would be dating white men at a larger rate than black men date white women if they had the option to. I don't think it's just a situation where
I'm trying to figure this out. What is your argument? Are you saying that black women date outside their race more than black men, or you just said if black women had the option to date outside their race more, then they would?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the advice this guy is giving.
Okay, so let me put it back on that.
All right.
First of all, let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Okay, white men always had free reign ever since the plantation to sleep with black women. Okay, this thing that we're seeing today is just pretty much confirmation of what white men have always wanted to do since the beginning. Okay, so white men, the only difference is during slavery, they could sleep with whatever black woman they wanted until black women became free and they figured out that black women was never really attracted to white men. We are the forbidden fruit for white men because white men know that even though they want us, and they're heavily attracted to us, we don't really want them. It is a known fact that Black women are not really attracted to white men or any other races. So I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. Black women have always had free reign to marry white men, to get with white men. I've even had a couple to try to date me when I was younger. Black women as a whole, I want to say at least 85%, are not attracted to white men. But we cannot say the same thing about you guys. Because
So
Black men,
okay.
when they decide that they want to badmouth white Black women and downgrade us, the first thing they grab is a white woman. And plus, and let's just be honest,
Or when they step into wealth too,
when they step into wealth, and
they
let's just
grab
be
a white
honest.
woman.
Y'all better
Exactly.
handle this because
And
I ain't got a good response.
but let's just be honest.
Oh, I have a response. I
Anything
definitely
light
have a
and
response.
bright, wait a minute, hold on. Anything light and bright and almost white has been considered to be the most beautiful thing in society. Anything dark like Ketanji Brown is considered to be unattractive. See, we don't talk about that. See, the Ketanji Browns are the ones that the white man would carry on his arm proudly, but that the Black man won't. See, we
I
don't
don't
talk
agree with that.
about that.
You haven't been around enough white men to know to speak about that. I've served in the service
I've been
for
around
23
enough
years.
white men to know
Not personally.
that white
Not personally.
men do
That's
not
a 15-year
discriminate when it
relationship I've
comes
been
to
in with
skin
a black
color
woman. It's
and
been an
hair.
absolute lie
Hey,
all along.
what
Wow.
Jeff K's trying to say something. Let me hear what he got to say. Jeff, you were being people were talking. Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, I'm just happy that she knows that I guess the 15-year relationship with a black woman I've been in with is an absolute lie, and she's just been hoodwinking me all this time.
You got to speak up a little bit, Jeff. You a little low. You still there, Jeff?
Jeff turned off his mic. So
Okay.
Whenever
can't
you
hear
want to repeat, you can repeat.
Hey, Nikki, I'm with you on this one. So I want to hear what y'all got, bro. Let me hear what y'all got,
Okay,
brother.
so let's go. Let's cover a couple of different things that Nikki said, a couple of things that Stedman said. So a couple of things that you said, Ernest. So we're going to talk about historical race relations. We gotta, we really need. Okay. Anyways, let me just get to the point. So white men always having access to black women. Yes, they have had historically. But notice they don't marry them though. So in any large number. So, but white, go ahead. I have to be able to speak uninterrupted.
Let's let him.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to finish my points. Okay, so yes, I mean, and going back to so let's deal with this concept of out group, in group. Some people may not understand that, but it's more like of a social science a perspective, right? So when we say out group, we're speaking to basically black. We're saying black males, right? Black people. We're the out group, all right. And then the in group would be again white males and white women, right? There would be the in group, male and female. Out group would be black male and black female in this particular instance. So the idea as far as going into colorism, right? Colorism, of course, whatever the in group, they are going to propel their woman as the prime example, the top of the apex of what beauty is. And as a society, that's what follows suit, right? That's been the case all the time. Going back to what you were saying, Ernest, about the paper bag test or what have you, so on and so forth. See, black people were not marrying white people on either note, because there was laws, either implicit or explicit, on against that. The one drop rule, how that came into play wasn't for your average mixed person. That was for people who had like an eighth of black in them. You know, maybe a great grandparent or a grandparent. But on the surface today, we would consider them white. But and still, if you had that one black, it prevented you from having any inheritance rights. That's where the whole one black misogyny, misogyny. That's where all of these terms. I may have said that wrong, but anyways, the mixing of races, right? You know, there was rules, state laws, so on and so forth on the books. That was what the Loving Day case was all about.
Yeah,
right?
miscegenation.
Going back to right. I'm sorry. What's the pronunciation again, man?
Miscegenation.
Miscegenation, right? You know what I mean? The octoroon balls and the octoroon and quadroon balls in New Orleans. Okay, yes, you know those were those mixed race, you know, off-caste children of you know white slave owners or overseers, right? You know these women. You have the whole octoroon balls and quadroon balls. The whole setup was these mixed race women. You know what I mean? Will be able to that they actually put on balls for wealthy men, wealthy white men. They would come and they would sponsor them. You know what I mean? Basically be their mistress for life. But that was about it because you know there was no real mechanism. You know what I mean? For from that the state observed that would recognize that union. Now, whether you know he passed on to his mixed race kids or not, and believe me, this was in my family. If I show you my great grandfather, he was a product of this. You know, and what you ended up happening, then basically you created a buffer class with the mulattoes. You know, those who come from mulattoes got with other mulattoes, right? And so that's where you get this you know because of their closeness or to whiteness that gave them somewhat of a status away from the blacks or the you know what I'm saying those who were in slavery and then later on just you know sharecroppers, things of that nature, right? The lower class blacks. And we've had this colorism situation from slavery on forward, you know. In fact, if you know, there's a book called The Accident of Color. Read that. It's a great book. One of the peculiar things I learned in this book was that New Orleans and Charleston had the two largest cities, or had the most popular cities, or better yet, the free people of color was the number. You know, those two cities in the South were the top ones because of this mixing that was going on primarily from white men to black women, right? Because I doubted at that time that any large numbers were black men dealing with white women to produce these large numbers of people. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make in all of this is that yes, white men have been able to sleep with black women throughout ages, but again, they can only produce a white child through a white woman. And then that's the pinnacle of being in the in group. You want to produce yourself. So yes, you know, can they? Is it you know risque, whatever? Of course, you know, it's fun time, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? But very few throughout history, even to this day, ever actually seriously in a real committed relationship got with a black woman, had children, so on and so forth. That's why, again, you had a bunch of them that, you know, had kids with them. Great. You know what I mean? And that was pretty much that. Maybe they might give some money to the kids later on. We're talking about historically, right? You know what I'm saying? But in reality, there was nothing. There was outside of you know that being sleeping with a black woman. There was no real social upliftment, any real attachment and commitment in any type of way. And for the most part, that still is the case today.
Are you speaking
I
And
have to disagree.
general? Are you speaking in general or in
Mm.
most cases?
I'm speaking historically, and I'm also speaking empirically. You
Oh,
know,
that's incorrect.
but at this
That's
point,
absolutely
Hold up.
incorrect.
Hey, Nikki, unless you want to do like a quick, like, 1 minute rebuttal of what Gerard said, we're going to let Miss jump in on it because she also disagreed too. So let's hear what she got to say as well.
I'm gonna go ahead and hear what Miss Phyllis got to say because I know it's incorrect. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's very incorrect.
And part of it is true about, I understand about the mulatto balls and all of that, and the South and Louisiana and places like that. But up north, it's a bit different. And I'm old enough to have lived through eras that you may not have lived through, Gerard. You may be older than I think, but I lived through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. There were, as Nikki said, I worked in academia, so worked at a lot of different universities. And even me being an overweight Black woman, I was smaller than I am now. I had plenty of opportunities to have serious relationships and even marriage to white men. And the fact is, what Nikki said is correct. The kind of Black woman that they wanted was someone who looked obviously Black, who was not ambiguous in skin tone, in hair texture, or any of that, but women who were obviously Black, who were intelligent women, and they had no issues with being with a Black woman or marrying a Black woman. I knew several of people that I worked with who were married to white men, um, more than several. And so it's just not totally true what you're saying. In the South, it may have been different, but all I know about is the North because I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's not true that white men don't want to marry Black women. What is true, like Nikki said, is that most Black women don't want to marry white men.
That's true.
All I say is
because
look
the
at the
choice
numbers.
And
is
then that
always
is true
there.
too when you look at most white men in my proximity. When I see, which is not very often, it's starting to be, something of the norm. But when you see white men now, just like in restaurants, walking down the street with a Black woman, she's very dark. It's something about it, and it's really quite disgusting sometimes and scary to me because I always think that it's a fetish that they have. That's just my opinion. I think it's a fetish with them,
It
but it
is, and that
seems
was the
like
point that
when
I was
when
making.
Black women, when Black men get with white women, they really be in love. It's not like a fetish to them. I don't know.
And that was the point that I was making, you piece. I mean, to Miss Phyllis, again, that's I'm not doubting what you experienced, but our experience are anecdotal. When we look at the empirical evidence over a large period of time, I mean, listen, white men are, again, they could do whatever they want to do for the most part. And if they were marrying Black women in large numbers, it would have happened. You don't think there would be, listen, it would happen if it
Gerard,
was.
did you listen to the Black women on?
It could only happen if the women wanted to marry them.
Okay, I was
I'll
muted, but
say
I'm
this.
telling you to listen to the Black women on stage. If you listen to the Black women on stage, they're telling you the answer as to why that you do not see more Black women married to white men. It's because we're not attracted to white men. We don't want them. We are the opposite of Black men. We are not attracted to them. This is
So I got
why.
a question. So when you look at marriage numbers for Black women in general, they're the lowest of all women of any ethnic or racial group.
Yes.
So do y'all not just want to be married at all?
We don't like white men.
You don't have anybody else marrying you either, is what I'm asking.
Well,
Because here's what I want to
So,
say.
so we should be good
That was
then,
very
right?
nice for you to say, conspiracy.
So
Yeah,
I
because
didn't come out of that era.
So well, let me get my point out. Because here's what we already. I talked about the historical. I talked about the historical, the way that you look at societies and cultures, in group and out group. So Gerard broke that down real well. In group meaning that whatever the dominant society is, out group meaning whatever the oppressed or non-dominant society is, right? And so in every group except Black people, the females, the out group female marries the dominant or in group male. Asian women marry white men at a higher rate than Asian men marry white women. Hispanic men who are not white marry white women less than Hispanic women marry white men. In every group that exists except for America, or except for black people in America. And I said the reason that is because in America, what you can do in this country that you have kind of been able to do at a better level now around the world, but what you hadn't been able to do until recently through entertainment and sports, is black men have been able to make a certain amount of money that puts them in a certain bracket that outpaces everybody else in those other ethnic groups, either through entertainment, music, movies, sports. And so what that has done is opened the door that is unlike any other door for any other ethnic group. Gerard broke down statistically that black men marry out twice as much as black women. That number in itself sounds like a lot, but without any context, it means nothing. So what he broke down is 12% of black men marry out, 6% of black women marry out. The reason that we tried to bring the historical context, and what I press to y'all is show me in history where when during the time of slavery, you had a black male slave owner married to a white woman, and anywhere in this country where we could show you examples of black women being married to white men and owning slaves. We can find examples of black men married to black women and owning slaves. Find me a situation where a black man was married to a white woman in the South and owned slaves. That's just another point. What we're trying to talk about here is not that your anecdotal situation ain't true, but this is an issue that happens with women all the time. That, I talk to my little sister about this all the time. My wife, we talk about it. Men will tell a woman anything to get in her pants. So I'm not going to say that y'all don't legitimately have men trying to talk to you, but white women who talk to black men, they want a dark-skinned black man too. They don't want a light-skinned guy, because it feeds something inside of their brain, like James Baldwin talk about, the nigger that you have created in your mind. So you want some dark mandingo. That's why the women in Europe go to East Africa and have unprotected sex with those guys. I think it's I forget the tribe in East Africa, but they go and have sex even to this day. All over Europe they go because you have created the Maasai, right? You have created this in your mind of this mandingo lover ripping and a white man, by and large, has created in his mind this idea that the black man is superior. I've got to either show him up or I've got to push him back. And so this is where you are today. If you want to marry somebody that's white, that's your business. If you don't, that's still your business. But what I'm trying to say, I speak for me alone. I'm not going to discredit any of your experiences. But men, even myself, have told women a lot of stuff to try to get their phone number, to get a date or more. And that doesn't change it. You say, oh, they wanted to marry me. How many times have you seen women say, you told me you was going to leave your wife for me, and they didn't leave their wife? How many times have you seen, you told me you was going to marry me, and that didn't happen? So while your story is your story, and I won't discredit you at all, when we look at the statistics, it doesn't bear out for everybody. Now, it bears out for y'all because that's what y'all told me. I don't know y'all from Adam, so I believe you. But when we look at the statistics overall, that don't bear out. And when you look at, even for men, it's just 12% of them marrying out. And those are very select few.
I've heard this several times, this argument about, white men don't do this, white men don't do this. Okay. I feel like you're taking the credit away from yourself, because black men are the most desirable men on this earth. You all have a swag about you, a power about you that every ethnicity on this earth desires. The same thing with black women. Black women are beautiful, and they are beautiful to all ethnicities. Okay? We have that kind of power. They weren't sleeping with their white men, they white women. They thought we was pretty. I don't care, our hair was looking a mess. We didn't have no weaves. We had plaits and twists on our head, and we were still more beautiful to them.
And had nice bodies.
Yes.
Too.
Than their white women that was laying in their beds. Okay? That has not changed. What you're talking about is what was acceptable to society. It was not acceptable in society after slavery was over, during Jim Crow in the South. What I said in the beginning was that it's acceptable now. And so that's the reason why you're seeing that now when you turn on the television, you see only white men with black women. That's what they've always wanted. That's what they've always done. The reason why you don't see it evident in marriage is because just like the statistics, and y'all all want to go back on statistics, just like the statistics state, black women are not attracted to white men. And that's just point blank, period. Almost every black woman could be married to a white man if she dated outside her race. Want me to tell you how I know? Because the Africans are coming over here doing it. The African women are coming over here dating white men and marrying white men. And Ketanji Brown is one of them.
So, hey, y'all, we need to go ahead and wrap this one up.
That's a fact.
So we're going to go ahead and do rounds off and kind of wrap this conversation up. Ernest, Gerard, Conspiracy. What were you going to say, Conspiracy?
And
I was just going to say,
they're not even attracted to seem like light-skinned sisters. Like,
Hey,
you
your
know,
piece.
the most naturalist looking woman is the type of women that it seems like white men are attracted to. And statistics even show too. They'll have maybe 1 or 2 kids by their wife, but you go out there on their plantation and they have 100 damn kids out there on their plantation by
Sure
black women.
did.
All right. Thank you, guys.
But
Thank you. Go ahead, Conspiracy.
So I'll agree that I think that the media is trying to push a certain narrative with all this stuff in the with the commercials and all that. Because you even heard Joe Biden say that when he talked to the NAACP leaders, or not the NAACP leaders, but the quote unquote civil rights leaders. You know, it's a big change. You see, you know, interracial couples on TV now. So I believe it's a more of a nefarious reason that they're pushing that. But even like what y'all saying, the perspective of sex for men and women is different. And a lot of women still equate sex with want or desire or relationship or love. And that's not going to be a measure of that. Men will have sex with anything. I mean, you could go to a jail and see that for yourself. A man will have sex with anything. I watched on Twitter one time, somebody had posted a video. These dudes worked at a slaughterhouse and they was having sex with pigs. You know what I'm saying? Men will have sex with anything. Like the joke is anything with a hole.
Goats.
Well, yeah, goats, all kind of wild animals.
We ain't anything with a hoe. We the goddesses.
Chicken. That don't mean he wanna love the chicken.
So I saw a man on Facebook had sex with a snake. He had opened up the snake on. And so that's what I'm saying. We can't equate sex with love. Now these guys, and like I said, white women do it too. They fetishize black men. Oh, you know, because I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, so I went to school with a lot of white women and white people in general. And you know, it wasn't my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. But what you see is a lot of them. They want you to be a certain way that they didn't see in rap videos and movies and all this stuff. And so when you look at a lot of the African women, the reason why this is a different situation, and I'm glad you brought this up because it kind of gets back to our differences as a unique tribe of freedmen, descendants of freedmen, is the African women, they don't have the same cultural hangups as we do, and they don't have that same cultural behavioral pattern in a lot of these instances. To come to America, to immigrate to America, you got to have a lot of money because you got to pay for immigration. You got to have somewhere to stay, especially coming from a distance that far where you can't just hop the border. There's a lot of restrictions. So they welcome in a certain class of people, usually educated with money. And so if you could, it's almost like you could say, I could get a black woman, but I could get a black woman who act like me. And so then they do that. That's why you see Ketanji Brown could get up there and say she don't know what a woman is. She's not a biologist. Or she could get up there and say there's no racism in our legal system because she has already been indoctrinated for all her life that this is who she was going to be with. This is the mentality. Kamala Harris, she just did what she was hopping on the first thing moving. When it was Brown, the mayor, the governor of San Francisco, that was him. When it was Montel Williams, it was that. You see what I'm saying? Whatever's moving, she hopping on it because she's just trying to ascend. You see that with Jennifer Lopez. Even look at
what happened to Conspiracy?
Man, the
His thing
conspiracy
dropped.
got him, man.
Oh,
The
the
conspiracy got him. They finally came
Oh
for him,
man,
man.
jeez, at the wrong time too.
Buddy.
All right, so look,
buddy.
we got to wrap this one up, yo. I think
Yeah,
we
we
started
did,
going a little
man.
bit in the circles, and you know, it was a good conversation. But I think we got to make sure for people who came in, not only on Clubhouse but on YouTube, that we come back, that we make clear what's our final message. So I'm gonna leave it to Ernest and you, Gerard, and I'm gonna shut it out.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say shout out to everybody that came through today. I know this one was kind of like a real quick build, but maybe next time when we come back, we're gonna have a full show run and, you know, introduce some clips and, you know, a full set of like articles or whatnot. But definitely check us out on YouTube. We got a little show out there that we've been doing for the last 2 years. But I've been, you know, telling the guys that we could come on here and have like more of an interactive conversation. So definitely appreciate you guys throwing those opinions out there. As far as like who got
Tell them where they could get us, man. Tell them to where they could come get us at.
yeah. Like I said, follow us on, you know, YouTube at Freeman Collector. That's where y'all can come get Gerard and Conspiracy for some of that, you know, craziness they were saying. But
yeah, look at you, man.
Hey,
look at you pandering, man.
Hey,
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good, man. You know, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do it.
Yeah, you know. But nevertheless, I think it was a good combo. But you know, for sure, I was gonna say as far as the Great White Nope and is it white Zaddy or reparations, we already looked at Ketanji, Kamala, and I would even say like Obama. You know, let's look at their experience. You know, when they marry into whiteness or when they come from whiteness, it's a different experience when you're someone that's purely of the black race and have, you know, 2 black parents. And so I feel like when people marry interracial, I think it's a risk that they could lose, you know, focus on supporting their race in the ways that they should be. You know, that's just one of the like faults of interracial mixing or even like bi-ethnic mixing. And so with that, I'll land.
Yeah, so to pick up off of that, hey, that has been a great show. Thanks to everyone who came up, even those who had contrary views than I had. I love to hear it. That's why we have this this forum to do so. You know, I'll also attack the byline, right? Is it white Zaddy or reparations? Man, it's peace and reparations all day long. You know, at the end of the day, there's really, you know, what we try to focus on and we always try to bring into scope is that there's no escape hatch out of being out of this freedman disadvantage. There's absolutely none. You can't marry your way out of it. You can't screw your way out of it. You can't business your way out of it. You can't college educate your way out of it, man. We were brought to this land to be the permanent bottom class. And the only way that's going to happen or to truthfully change is that we need transformative government policy, i.e. reparations, in the form of reparations, policy protections. It means just more than just getting a check cut, but it means that as well. So I'll leave it Darvell to close us out. Oh, we got Conspiracy Brother back.
Conspiracy, you got a last final word, sir? Can y'all hear me? Yeah, you can. Conspiracy, you there?
I definitely heard you.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. My situation be messing up over here sometimes.
We know.
I feel like, you know, they're trying to work against me. So hopefully it was engaging and the dialogue was good. I hear some people in the chat, they upset. I mean, I don't know what to say. You know, I hope you enjoy something. Come back next time. Give us some show topics. You know, give us some show topics. If you don't like what we're talking about, we'll maybe bring you on stage and you can yell at us. Because I'd like it to be engaging for people. I'd like this to be talked about. But you know, I mean, I can't please everybody. We can't please everybody. We just try to hit what's in the news when it's relevant. And so, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we were discussing an article written by, I forget his name, law professor from Stanford. So speaking specifically about, you know, should black women marry out so that they can be the next vice president or the next Supreme Court justice? Because apparently, you know, white men have that power in them to just elevate you to the highest levels of human achievement. And so we were just discussing whether or not that makes sense. I don't think it makes sense. I think, especially in the last 6 months, we didn't talk about how many black women found dead and they white lovers and partners then put them in the ground and got off scot-free. So, you know, I think it's a nuanced conversation. I know we didn't get all of it in 2 hours, but I hope we gave you some food for thought. I hope y'all come back when we do one of these little clubhouse shows, because I enjoy this dialogue. I enjoy Nikki and Phyllis and Tree Hugger and all of y'all, because I think that with that engagement, it helps me to be a better person, and I hope that I'm helping y'all to be better people. So I'll leave it with that.
Yeah. So, hey, you know, being the purest and the most quiet person, hopefully today, the end of the story, the end of the block for me, and what I need everyone to understand is at the end of the day, this is about transformative uplift for our entire community. There are dynamics. There's honestly an intersectional situation going on. There are dynamics that are multifold beyond the pit that unfortunately the lineage that we're part of has been dealt. And so we are trying to assist the community in realizing that all these different mechanisms that are being employed and even being encouraged by bad actors are just distractions away from the real transformative and first and foremost priority that this community needs to be focused on. And that's transformative politics that change our wealth and economic situation, as well as the social situation for the better, and get us back to where we should be. And that requires reparations. Nothing that we've talked about today supersedes reparations, because without transforming our community's social economic position, we're going to continue to have this extremely toxic gender divide and all these different racial fault lines that occur that can be used to further divert our community away from where it really should be. So I thank everybody who joined us today, both here in this chat and on YouTube. And we'll be doing it again within the next 2 weeks. So we'll be on a different topic. We'll run it the same, a little better. But hey, thank you. And Ernest, I'm going to flip back to the YouTube, and you can close it out over here on good old Clubhouse, sir. Hear me. Sorry about that. I realized you couldn't hear me, so I apologize. But yeah, we had another great show on Clubhouse. It's crazy at times, so I appreciate everyone who sat with us today and enjoyed the show. Please share this live stream, share the video, and tune in for the show when we do it again in within the next 2 weeks. Okay, so take care.